Assalamu alaikum. Peace, everybody. We know you there. It's Coach Nazir. I can say something.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace is Nyla, Coach Nyla.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace is Fatimah, Coach Fatimah.
Welcome to our Sunday live Q&A, guys. If you have any questions, at first, let us know where you are watching us from. You know, we definitely like to see that. And make sure if you have any questions, some of the questions that we will be addressing is some questions that we got from our Let's Talk Polygyny group.
Put question marks in front.
Yeah.
I thought you said something.
I did. This was talking. I muted it. So.
And if you have any questions, make sure you put question marks in front of it and behind it or whatever. But definitely in front of it so we know that it's a question. And we get a lot of comments in the chat, and we want to make sure we get their questions as soon as possible. So yeah. Let us know if you guys are watching from.
See Las Vegas in the house. Nice snowy weather out there in Vegas, I'm sure. Cleveland, North Carolina. Welcome. And alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For those who give us salams now and throughout this broadcast. Okay, cool. We're going to jump right to some questions that we had because we posted, again, some questions in our Let's Talk Polygyny group. So if you're not a member, just go free, answer all of the questions, or you would not be a member. But there were a number of different questions that were asked. So I went live last night to address some of them, but of course, couldn't address all of them because many of the questions are for Coaches Fatimah and Coach Nyla. So we're going to jump into some of those and probably be with you about 30 minutes or so. Again, like Coach Nyla said, if you have some questions, throw them question marks up front, a bunch of them, so we can go to the questions quickly. Otherwise, we may not get to it if we have to read through all of the comments. We'll go through the comments a little bit later, but we're time restricted. So please do that. AIG. Let's get busy. So, assalamu alaikum, peace. Again, Coach Nazir, and we're going to jump right into the first question.
All right. One question a brother asked, and this is about agreements, arrangements. It says, should I have an attorney? Should I have an attorney make our marriage agreements, not arrangements, agreements?
You want to move it over here so we can talk to the mics, inshallah. It'll be easier.
You want to lawyer up?
Yeah. It says, should I have an attorney to make our marriage agreements, or do I just copy and paste from Google? I'm having a time with making one.
All right, well, the answer to most questions you will find is it depends. Okay, I don't know your background so far as your ability, whether it's like a paralegal or you know different attorneys. Mainly, you just pretty much have to get your agreement in writing. So whatever it is you agree to, so that it's in writing and it's clear as possible, because the person that writes the contract is the one that is responsible for the interpretation of the contract. So if there's something that's unclear, that goes against them. So it depends on your current situation, the other party as well. I would suggest one is we help with basic documents, not some, boilerplates and things like that. But we do have for our relationship mastery inner circle members do have access to different like POAs and wills and so on and so forth from that perspective. But it's really totally up to you. I mean, do you have an attorney or someone that is familiar with understanding the different dynamics of polygyny or whatnot? Feel free. All right, so it's totally up to you and what your budget is, finding things out, see if it makes sense, getting an agreement, but mainly getting your agreement as clear and precise as possible on paper. That doesn't necessarily require an attorney, but again, since it depends on those things, weigh it out and make a decision, inshallah. Pray for that helps. Oh, and more information about our our relationship mastery inner circle is outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/RM for relationship mastery.
Okay. One question. I think it came from the what's called you did last night. Is it that men don't love their wife that makes them take another wife? Because I, as a woman, sometimes you feel tired of your spouse, but had to do one or two things to spice it up.
Is there a question in there?
Yeah, that's the question.
That's a question. Is
it that men don't love their wife that makes them take another wife? Period. Because I'm a woman who sometimes you feel tired of your spouse, but had to do one or two things to spice it up. Short answer is no. No, that doesn't add up at all. So no.
So
you can go if you want more details or something more drawn out. I've already recorded a video on why I, as a happily married man after 15 years, chose to practice polygyny. So you can check it out on YouTube. Videos there. You can search through it on Facebook. It's not as organized as YouTube, but our YouTube channel has that. So feel free to go ahead and check that out.
Okay. Someone asked, why isn't the institution of polygyny not embraced by our younger sisters?
Nigeria in the house.
That's an interesting question because I mean, it's an interesting question because I really think that polygyny is beginning to be embraced a little bit more because it's being talked about more. People do have their issues and their things, but I've noticed that since we've come with this platform with Outstanding Personal Relationships, that more people are understanding polygyny a lot more. Polygyny is not given its fair airplay. So people don't know about it, even though polygyny outdates monogamy. It just gets to the point that because people are conditioned a particular way, and particularly that is in monogamy, just really conditioned that way, that it's difficult for sometimes people to wrap their head around another form of marriage, or the other form of marriage as polygyny, such as polygyny. But I know a number of young sisters that that would talk about, I don't have a problem with my husband marrying, more than one wife, as long as I'm the first. One is my bonus daughter and my daughter, and they are not old women. So the thing is that I think it comes to what people see, what people are.
What are their examples?
Yeah, what are their examples?
If they're living around a bunch of polygynous marriages that are either negative, violent, failed, they can't get along. I mean, they're gonna go, I don't want that. Mm-hmm. They could do that in monogamy.
So that's
right.
They could do that in monogamy. That's just marriage. So, but if they're in a community where it is thriving, then they wouldn't think twice about it failing. But if they're in a place where it's just constant horror stories and they're around other women that don't support it, then they might not want to do it. But then some, like my co-wife was saying, will be like, let me just sign me up, because they don't want a husband in the house every single day. Even though he's their husband all the time, they just don't want that responsibility in and of themselves. They want it shared. So, it just depends on, I think, where you are. And I think what are the examples that the youth are seeing from marriage, period. Not just polygyny, which is, of course, another form of marriage, but what are they seeing? They could see their parents monogamously married and then go, well, they argue every day. Well, so then they add another wife, it's just going to make it worse. Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? So it could be a number of things, reasons why they do or why they don't.
It's not just the younger sisters. Trust and believe. Older sisters used to be younger sisters. So yeah, Cleveland in the house, North Carolina, Lagos, Nigeria, Baltimore. Our sisters from Philly asked a question: can a sister say no to polygamy? From Philly or from Pennsylvania? May not be Philly. I don't know.
You say no to whatever you want to say no to.
Wisconsin, St. Louis.
A whole lot of stuff.
Yeah. So, and that's the,
you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything.
I think that's the thing when it comes to us, people have had questions and feel like, are they brainwashed? Are they forced into this is a choice. Marriage is a choice. Polygyny is a choice.
Choose to do it or not do it.
Right. So yes, you can say no, and
A lot of people,
however you deal with it.
you could be married and choose not to be married. So a lot of people, men and women, do that.
It's important to understand that relationships that you're involved in, if they're going to be good relationships you're involved in, these are relationships that are voluntary. All right. There's no obligation at all in relationships. If there's an obligation, not talking about holding to the relationship responsibility, no, I mean of a relationship. So for example, we're married, okay? It's completely voluntary, meaning that Coach Nyla, Coach Fatimah Nyla, they can walk away at any time and say, all right, cool, I'm done. They're humans. They have their own agency. I can do the same. Our children can say, you know what, I'm done with this house. I'm just going to walk out. On a job, you don't have to do anything. We're not compelled. See, that's one of the special things we have as human beings. We have this freedom of choice. So a sister doesn't have to believe in Islam. She doesn't have to pray. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't rewards or consequences for your actions. So when you say, does the sister have to accept polygyny? That's kind of a twofold question. One, or can she say no to polygamy? You can say no, you don't have to marry in that. Of course, you have absolute, and that's proven. I mean, you have absolute ability on who to marry or not marry at all. Women have had that in Islam for well over 1,400 years. And you say sister, I'm assuming you're talking about a Muslim. So they've had that before the West even thought about it as an idea. Okay, so that's well known. The other part is, can you say no to polygamy? It's part of Islam. Okay, so you can't say no from that perspective and still be considered a Muslim. That's something clear. All right, but when you're talking about in marriage, can you say no? Of course you can. All right, either way, because every relationship you have is voluntary. All right, so that is powerful in and of itself. You understand, we have that freedom of choice. So we can design our lives kind of how we want to. The challenge is many times we don't know how that looks, what challenges or what growth and what things will help us get to the result that we desire. All right, it's like I remember hearing one of my friends saying, or one of my mentors saying, look, you know what, work, you get a knock on the door. Opportunity rarely knocks. But don't be surprised when you open it and it looks like work. Okay, meaning you have to work. It's not going to come and look the way you might think or imagine or hallucinate that it may be. Maybe some work related to it. Okay, so hopefully, that helps on that. That was a simple question. Really important to understand the subtleties with that. A couple more.
On this, how do you establish economic stability in a polygamous marriage?
Germany in the house. All right. How do you do that? Same way you do it as an individual. Okay. One is to increase your financial IQ. We have some videos. We talked about a number of different options and opportunities. But if your financial IQ, your financial quotient is not there, it doesn't matter what I say. Like, okay, I'm just random on the internet. You may or may not know me. Some friends tune in sometimes. They know me. Other people don't know me. So I say, you know what? One of the fastest, simplest ways to really go ahead and earn right now at the time that we're living in is to learn how to trade. Learn how to trade. Learn how to trade cryptos or Forex or stocks. Learn how to trade. Right? And you're like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. You may have heard it before. Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you'll take it serious. Maybe you won't. There are free tutorials on YouTube University that you can go to, and no, it's not a place called YouTube University. It's YouTube that you choose to use as a university because you can learn. You can go and learn how to trade. You can learn how to invest in stocks. You can learn how to get commodities. The point is you're learning. The learning is the only time you want to L before you earn. Because once you learn it, you can drop the L, and then you can earn. So whether it's investing in real estate, starting a small business, whether it's multi-level marketing, whether it's reselling or it's fulfilled by Amazon businesses, or whether there's consulting or coaching, there's a many different ways. But if this part isn't right, it really doesn't matter. So there's a plethora of opportunities, especially in times of crisis. 2020 was a year of crisis, right? All kinds of stuff, all kinds of things happening. People scared, not knowing where stuff is coming from, right? The government's like, look, we're sending you a stimulus. How many people blew that stimulus? Where 10 months ago in March, whole pandemic stuff started becoming more familiar. 10 months ago, we said, listen, Bitcoin, I haven't seen it this low since 2017. It dropped to 3,500. Right now, it's about 33,000. So you get a 10x your stimulus money if you got a stimulus check, right? It was unexpected. It showed up in your bank account, as an example. Some people did it, and it's great. Some people didn't. It's fine. But what is it for you? So one, how do you get that financial IQ up, one, I'll suggest a few books. One is Think Personal Finance, best-selling book of all time by Robert Kiyosaki. Really join his whole ecosystem. So you're going to get Think and Grow Rich. You're going to get Cash Flow Quadrant. You're going to get the game Cash Flow 101, and then 202 that helps you with more sophisticated investing. Run your own business, own your own business, start your own business. 3 different books about a person in his ecosystem, Garrett Sutton. Then there's a Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver, Mike Maloney. I might be talking fast now, but guess what? This is on social media. You can pause it, slow it down. All right. So get your financial IQ up first. That's what I would suggest. And we go into more detail in our Relationship Mastery Inner Circle course and give some specifics and answer questions along the way. I don't do full-blown consulting like I do with other individuals or whatnot for RMIC members, but they do have access to me for what we're doing. So if you are financially stable as an individual, you learn these different things, you can put them in play. You can recognize opportunity in times of crisis because during every challenge, there's a seed of opportunity, equivalent or more opportunity, just like with every. All right. But we have to be able to. And right now, as this world is changing and shifting, if you don't understand the basics of the book, Who Moved My Cheese, then come on, we're not being proactive. And if you're not being proactive, if you're grown, if you're 30 years old or above, and let's say you don't have $500 to your name to invest in a business or invest in crypto or whatever, and you're 30, you're 3 decades in life right now. My mentor told me at that age, he was like, listen, if you don't have it now there, it's okay. But whatever you're doing ain't working. You need to change something up. And he said, I'm not saying this to make you bitter, but I want to help make you better. All right, check those books, go from there, and we'll move on to the next question. I hope. And I'm gonna scroll for some other questions too if you got some questions.
This one. What worked to help with transitioning when a new wife enters? What do you suggest be avoided?
You want to say it again? It helps with transitioning.
So what worked to help with transitioning when a new wife enters? What do you suggest be avoided?
You think that's a male question or what?
I think it's a question for anybody.
Okay, yeah, because I answered this question. I answered this question last night from my perspective in our group, Let's Talk Polygyny, and on our Facebook page. So you look for the black and white video. I know we're in black and white right now on YouTube. That's what I'm talking about. But yesterday we did I did a video myself on Facebook, and I answered that question from my perspective. So you want to answer it? What helps with transitioning when a new wife enters? What helps with transitioning in polygyny? And what do you suggest avoiding?
I think you should avoid not having a conversation with your family about it, because you have to prepare your children for what's going to happen. I think they can deal with things better if they're not blindsided by polygyny. It's kind of like hindsight is 20/20. So there's so many things that each one of us could say that could just go on and on and on about what to avoid. And we've talked about this very openly. So please check us out on YouTube and all the videos. I tell everybody, don't discriminate on the videos. Watch all the videos. They're really beneficial, but having a really authentic, hard conversation with your kids, with your initial wife, with your subsequent wife, because you could still, the Muslim men can have up to 4. I believe that they deserve that, because it just prepares them mentally, emotionally, and there's so much you can avoid on the back end if you handle things at the beginning before things start or right after they have started. And because you'll be so respected for, the position of saying, oh, you know what, let me talk to my family. Whether you do it before you get married or after. The men have the choice. They can do it one way or the other, and Coach Nazir has spoken about that. But one thing that is effective is having tough conversations. Even if you are set on the fact that you're going to get another wife, have the conversation so that you don't have to deal with drama after that. And whether people say it or not, Your children will respect you more for it. Your wife or your wives will respect you more for that decision. I'm speaking from my perspective, though.
Definitely communication. I say it a number of times, communication, proper communication, being receptive to the information. Also, not being to the point where you're very reactive to things, meaning that, you take some time out whenever whatever triggers you have or whatever's triggering you, take some time out for yourself. My co-wife talks about it a lot, where it's like, okay, I had to take my time to process. If you have to take time to process, take your time to process, because you don't want to get into a place, and my co-wife has said it, you don't want to say something that you regret later, or do something that you regret later, and then you have to come back and try to fix it. So making sure that, you're not reactive, that, you're more responsive, and working on yourself, whether that is picking up a hobby, whether it's going into different personal development, watching some videos. Coach Nazir talked about YouTube University. So it's so many things that you can learn from YouTube that can create a new skill, can, make you feel better, learn how to transition. And the transitioning mean, it's like what work to help with transition, but I mean transitioning from a negative state to a positive state. There are a number of apps out there. There are a number of things that you can do. You can do meditation, you can read, you can do a number of different things. So doing things that are healthy for you, make sure you're indulging in self-care. It would be the things that I would suggest that definitely help with transitioning, and not putting your business all out there, or however you're feeling, to people who are not going to be of assistance to you. Sometimes we just want to talk to just let off steam, and sometimes we're letting off steam to the wrong people. So you want to make sure that you're very wise in who you tell your business to, and who you talk to, and who you take advice from, because everybody has something to say, but you want to make sure whatever you take in is beneficial to yourself and to your relationships, including your marriage.
Good stuff.
That's pretty much it. Let's see. Oh, it's another question. We answered this question on our RMIC, our Relationship Mastery Inner Circle Q&A today. One question came up, and it said, what are some steps to take in building a relationship with your sister wife or your co-wife? And my co-wife and I, we do get that a lot, because people do look at our chapter 10 and say, oh, I want that. I want to be like that. Or you guys are, very close. How did you get that way? We were always cordial. I think first and foremost, that's kind of the thing of getting out of your own way when it comes to building relationships. Ask yourself, why would I not have a relationship with this person? What is the reason? What is the reason that I don't like her, or that I won't like her, or anything like that? And if it's something as minute or superficial as you're married to the same person, you may have to think twice about your emotional maturity and build how you want to be, how you want to build on your and grow. And I'm not saying that to be facetious, or not saying that to be, mean. Have our issues, and we've all had our points. A little bit immature, in the way we handle some things, and so we have to think twice and say, am I being mature in how I'm handling this situation? And then you can go from that. But first and foremost, work on you. Make sure that your emotional stability and your emotional maturity is there, and reach out. First and foremost, person don't know you want to build any type of relationship with them if you don't let them know.
relationship with your co-wife?
I'm getting confused, y'all. I thought I already answered it.
Yeah, earlier. That's what you're saying. It's a question from earlier.
I think another thing is don't look at it as a competition or keeping score. We're looking for holes in her story, and I've seen initial wives do this thing. The thing with OPR is that a lot of initial wives will gravitate more toward me, and then subsequent ones will gravitate more toward Coach Nyla. But even in my personal life, the initial wife will want to choose teams. And I'm like, no, we're not choosing teams. It's not initial wives against subsequent wives for the heart of the husband. That I'm not going to do. So I tell them, don't make it a competition between you two, because there's this competition that's created not by the man, but the women will get in this thing. And then if there's a third one, and it can get really, really ugly. And I've personally seen it up close. I've seen it up close at an event I was at out of town, and they were coming for each other right at the end, right before I was compliment the three of them. Then all you know what broke loose. I'm like, I almost got out the door too. I was actually outside, and one of them came running up. Do you know what they did? I'm like, oh, it's almost to the car. But I see these vicious competitions going on, and that's part of that immaturity that started, because nobody asked you to get in a competition. I think society makes this, they condition the women to think that the one up. It's this one up going, if you're going to be sharing the same husband, and you got to be the better one, it's ridiculous to me, because if I'm going to compete with somebody, it's going to be with Fatimah, myself. I'm not competing with my co-wife. I'm not competing with Coach Nazir. Not even going to compete with my children. I don't have time. Time should be made for those things. But picking sides, being mean toward one another, trying to find something wrong with what the co-wife said, did, wore, didn't wear. I mean, that kind of stuff can go on forever and ever and ever and ever. And to the people that are Muslim, maybe watching, Shaitan is always going to help. He'll make time to help you, find something wrong, or maybe she meant this. It's just too much. So if you're going to come together, make sure you're doing so for the right reason, not to collect brownie points for your husband, not to look good in front of him, although he might wish for you all to get along or at least be cordial to one another. Do it for the right reason. Don't be fake and go, oh, she's so great, and then tearing her up when she's not looking, or talking bad about her. It's best to talk right now, and that's okay. I'm not ready. Say that, because if somebody goes back and says, well, Fatima said she's not ready. Now, well, she's stupid and I can't stand her, because my grandma said, dog, bring a bone, we'll carry one. So you gossip, and the dog will take the bone you set away and bring one back, and all kind. It'll just keep going. So that real high school stuff, because that's what it is. It's high school stuff. That's what I would say. Just don't look for stuff. Just try to be mean to each other. I have something to read. Do we have any more questions?
Good to go. Good to go. All right, y'all. We about to wrap up. Coach Fatimah's going to finish with something that's important. So listen.
Interesting.
Pay attention. It's interesting.
It's interesting. I've ran across this. This is on Muslims of the World IG page, if you all want to follow them. It's about, it says pop legend Cat Stevens, who converted to Islam, caused a big fuss in the media during his visit to Turkey. One of the journalists from the Turkish news agency asked him the following questions. What do you say about Islam and you being able to, that allows men to marry more than one woman? How can you logically justify this? Do you accept something like this as a Westerner and an enlightened musician? Whatever that means. Yusuf Islam replied, you claim to know my previous state. Before I became Muslim, I was with so many women that I didn't even know how many there were. I wouldn't even know if I had children from these women. When I led such a, he says depraved, y'all. We say deprived life. You were thrilled by me. Now I've become Muslim. I'm only married to one woman. I don't intend to marry a second one either. Just as the Islamic order of life allows a man to marry up to 4 women, it also imposes on him a number of duties regarding women and children. In the West, there is no such responsibility. A child doesn't have his father. A father leaves this world without even seeing his children once. So when people talk about polygyny being for men and, they should all do it or not do it, or there's some very serious responsibilities involved in polygyny. But notice how he speaks about, you all loved me when I was running around with all these women. You couldn't get enough. Now that I got somewhere and sat down and I have some rules set in place, you have a problem with me. This man wrote many hits. My dad used to sing his songs all the time when he was Cat Stevens. To me, when I was little, Father and Son, the Moonchild, there's different songs that he's written. He's written many Islamic albums for children. But he's telling you, I have the option, but there's responsibility, and I'm not going to play with it. So I think it's important for us to listen to when men tell us, it's allowed, but there's responsibilities. But now that I have a wife and I'm Muslim, or if I wanted to practice Islam, practice polygyny, you'd have an issue with it. But when I was around here sleeping with everybody, nobody cared. You just want the music, right? But there's a backhanded compliment in the question that he was asked, and someone was looking to throw him off. And I think that Yusuf Islam got that all the way together, because it's so true. There's so many responsibilities. He wasn't willing to play with it. And we should respect the fact that he told his truth, but he didn't lie either. He didn't lie about what he could do, what he can't do, what he's willing to do. What he's also said, I'm not going to play, but you when I played. So that's why I wanted to read that. I thought it was important.
Indeed. In closing, I want to say something to the brothers as well, because as Coach Fatimah just talked about, there's a lot of responsibility. So one, you have to increase your leadership skills, your abilities, your aptitudes, your intelligence. You have to increase. And as they say, you have to be more than twice the man. Now, to the sisters, since we know that men are seduced by their eyes and women are seduced by their ears, we must recognize also that there are procedures put in place for protection. Because there are brothers that are predatory. So it's like, oh yeah, this is how polygyny can look, blah, blah, blah. Sound real, real good. But if that man is not in place, that wakil or that wali or this other person, that person that comes in between, that's supposed to recognize game, that good game, recognize all game, you can get taken advantage of, be left as collateral damage and everything else by somebody that sounded good. There's a lot of people, I can't say there's a lot of people, there are people popping up in this space talking about polygyny, for example, or polygamy and all this and that, and they sound good and sound sweet and sound slick, and they predatory. Their behavior is predatory. It's not about building a nuclear family, leading by example, and being responsible. Now it's less than. So you got to be aware. And growing up in the Midwest and coming up, there was this whole 5P thing, being proper preparation prevents poor performance. I had one more. Preparation prevents piss poor performance. So as men, we have to man up with our responsibilities and grow into what we feel we can be, to be that best version, not just for ourselves, but for a whole lot more than us, for our families and legacies. So we're going to end prayerfully with that. If you got something else to say to really add, but just keep that as advice as we wrap up with GLC.
Make sure you are growing intentionally, loving fearlessly, and connecting on a higher level every single day. Inshallah, God willing, until next time, assalamu alaikum. Peace.
Peace.